following is a paid program. Talk 103.7 WTIP and Cable Channel 7 welcome you into Financially Speaking with Jim Taunton. Find us live on radio, TV, the IPX Media app, and on YouTube. Just search Financially Speaking NC or get the link at WTIPFM.com. The opinions expressed in this show are for general informational purposes only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what investments may be appropriate for you, consult your attorney, accountant, financial, or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities and investment advisory services are offered through Genois Wealth Management Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Now, here's your host for Financially Speaking, certified financial advisor, Jim Taunton.
And there he is. And welcome to Financially Speaking. Jim Taunton here, your host for the next 30 minutes. And I have been giddy with excitement for about 3-4 days now, waiting for tonight. I have perhaps the most illustrious guest I've had on this program in the 30 years I've done it. And I've been so looking forward to it. We have Louis Navellier on, and Louis is on every financial network known to mankind on a regular basis. Written numerous books, has a podcast, maybe several, and speaks all over the country, maybe around the world. I don't know. Don't keep up with his schedule. But he's here, and he's made the big time tonight. He's on Financially Speaking. Louis, hello.
Sure.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's exciting times in the market.
It is. And you're in Florida as we speak. Is that right?
Yeah, I actually live just south of Palm Beach. Yeah.
South of Palm Beach. And your office is actually in Nevada. Which,
I have a home there too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's explained in your book, actually. And I'm about halfway through the book. It's an excellent read. And how many books have you written, by the way?
Oh, that's just my second one. The first one was in 2007 when we launched our online stock rating system, which is free in the public domain. And then this is just a little bit more update. And we like to talk about market anomalies a lot and all the curveballs they throw at us. That kind of makes the market fun, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, I love the biographical part of the book. And of course, it melds into finance very quickly. But biographies are my favorite read. I love to read how people got where they are. And you started really by developing a trading algorithm or system when you were in college that ended up being something that people wanted to use. And I guess you're still using it now. Explain just a little bit about that system that you developed.
Sure. Well, I should add that the system evolved because I'm from essentially Berkeley, California, and back in the late 70s, they were trying to figure out how to mirror the S&P 500 because they had passed a law called ERISA. And the way the lawyers interpret the law is let's just match the S&P 500 and we'll comply with ERISA. Anyway, indexing hadn't evolved yet. So my goal was to figure out how many stocks we need to mirror the index. And there's a lot of math involved. And I figured we needed 332 stocks. But I was a failure because I kept beating the market. And of course, back then I was told that's not possible, blah, blah, blah. Well, I kept beating it. So my quest became to document that something called alpha exists, and that's return on correlated to market. And our top secret quant ratio is alpha over standard deviation. Still works incredibly well. The top 5% is extraordinary. However, my fundamental models are even working better than my original alpha divided by standard deviation model. And we have a tried and true 8-factor fundamental model that ranks stocks on sales growth, earnings momentum, cash flow, return on equity, analyst earnings revisions, earnings surprises. And that one's working incredibly well. In the top 45% of the stocks in that model are the place to be right now.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You're obviously a really smart guy, and I thought it was interesting in your book. you stated you were in a very high percentile on the SAT as measured by SAT, but not quite so much on the English portion. And you actually chose your college because they didn't require an English class.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to take bonehead English at Cal. I got into Cal. I'm from California, so I just thought you're supposed to go to California school. And but yeah, I did have a very high math score. My son is finishing his second master's at Stanford, and my only claim to fame over him is I do have a higher math score on my SAT. And but yeah, I would have been a bonehead English guy, and now I write for a living. Go figure, So.
Well, you've done a great job, and the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And you in the book, I think you would call yourself a perma bull or at the least a perma optimist. Let's put it that way, because in your book, I actually printed this out, and this is a quote: "If you believe the worst outcome may be just around the corner, the stock market is not for you. Buy government bonds, let the interest roll, and enjoy a predictable, albeit monotonous ride." I just love that. I want to send that out to all of my clients.
Yeah, I guess this boils down to my outlook in the world. One of the problems the world has now is a lot of countries are physically shrinking. Pretty hideous deflation in China this week, and we had our producer price index come out, and guess what? It was flat to negative, depending on how you look at it. Mm-hmm. And we may be starting to import a deflation from China. I realize there's tariffs and all that stuff, but a lot of this is caused by a strong dollar pushing the price of goods down, and especially commodities down, because commodities are priced in dollars. But when you look around the world, there's only 3 countries growing. That's America, Brazil, and India. And India is going to stop growing. Brazil is going to stop growing soon. So it's just us and India. And so what I'm referring to is we have household formation, and other countries don't have that. They have they're losing households, or they're giving homes away free. And in the South and the Mountain West, we're very pro-family. So you have natural organic growth there from families getting bigger. In America, we do assimilate our immigrants no matter how they got here. And we have 50 states that are competing with each other. So we just have a better model than the rest of the world. And, no matter who we elect, we're gonna outgrow and prosper just because we got a better model. Plus, we're food energy independent. And so I'm very optimistic. And, it's... and of course, when someone runs for office, we probably should elect the most optimistic fellow,
Yeah. It's called free market capitalism there, Louis.
Exactly. And that's why Elon is so popular. Well, it was popular until he started firing people. But, Elon was a very optimistic fellow and does these incredible productions of the future and the robots and stuff. And that's addictive, and that feeds on itself.
Yeah. Louis, this business actually should cause you to become an optimist if you're not already. I've actually been in financial services, 45 years. I have managed or handled clients' money through 7 bear markets and 6 recessions. Mm-hmm. And I've never been in one that was permanent.
That's
you
right.
go in them, you come out of them. And I've done that 13 times. So at this point, there's nothing really that overly concerns me. I don't like dips like anyone else, but it's not going to last. This too shall pass is my motto.
Yeah, and people have to realize that after earnings come out, and I still had 3 earnings come out this week, and they all worked. Stocks all popped. But after earnings come out, there's something called mean reversion. Where the stocks have to back and fill a bit, so that has been going on, and but the mean reversion should be over soon. And my other comment is there's no analyst cuts. I mean, that I'm looking at the bottom line here, and earnings are still very positive and upbeat, and it's people are grossly overreacting. I guess Steve Leisman had a meltdown today, and
He sure did. Yesterday, actually.
yeah, and that's unfortunate. Um, but I have one client who's actually quite famous. You see on TV a lot, who's very upset with what's going on. And I just said, just focus on Howard Lutnick. He's handling the tariffs. I know Howard personally. He's a great guy, and he is a cheerleader for America, as the Commerce Secretary should be. And I says, well, if you don't like the other guy, just Howard, and
Yeah.
and Howard's it's hard not to get excited with Howard because he's so optimistic.
Yeah. Yeah. He comes off that way. Sure does. So, what is your personal feeling of the tariffs? Or what are they going to do? Initially, there's obviously a negative reaction, but what are they going to do positively for America and for the economy? Where do you see that going?
Well, I okay. The Wall Street Journal had a great article on where the deficits are. Okay, so obviously China's number one, and they dealt with that by putting another 10% on China. But we won't even fill that 10% because China's in a deflationary spiral and it is a mess. And they always overproduce. They try to take over a market and overproduce. And so we're not feeling that. But China is running a lot of their manufacturing through Mexico. And so Mexico's trade deficit has gone from, trade surplus has gone from 40 billion to about 178 billion. So they're trying to circumvent the tariffs by using the NAFTA laws and using Mexico as a surrogate. So I think that's one big thing that's going on. Okay, and obviously they want the borders sealed, and they don't want fentanyl coming in, all that good stuff. But I think the trickiest deficit is going to be a lot of the Asian companies, because our tech companies have outsourced immensely there. Vietnam has a huge deficit with us. Taiwan is going to be tougher because they got all the advanced chip making there, even though we got the big TMC plant. So what Trump's trying to do is get everybody onshore. And so he had 1.1 trillion of onshoring announced from SoftBank, Larry Ellison, Oracle, and Sam Altman, Apple, and finally TSMC. So when they're done onshoring, it could be several trillion. I think one of the big showdowns might be the German auto manufacturers, because the EU is still forcing them to be all electric by 2035. They're not profitable doing that. We're their biggest market, and they have all plants in America. And Trump has made it very clear, like, well, just come over here, set up shop here. Our energy is a lot cheaper than it is in Germany, and we'll give you all the visas and stuff you need to get your workers here. And that's happening. Volkswagen has two plants, one in Chattanooga, and then the new Scout Motors plant that they're finishing up in South Carolina. And they're looking at an Audi plant, a Porsche plant, and so they send a car over here, we put a 2.5% tariff on it. But when we send a car over there, it's 10%. An SUV is 25%. So either they're going to 2.5%, or we're going to the 10.25%. But in the end, we're going to encourage a lot of onshoring. Honda has a new hybrid vehicle, and they decided to make it in Maryland versus Mexico. So that's what's going on. And this is going to happen a lot faster than it did with Biden. Now, Biden did get the TSMC plant in Arizona, but the Intel plant never materialized in Ohio. And the main reason was, believe it or not, the Defense Department reneged on their pledge to buy $2.5 billion of semiconductors every year. So that kind of screwed up Intel, although that stock was up today. It's I think it's going to be a lot more orderly, and it's going to happen a lot faster. But God, our states are always fighting to throw tax incentives and everything to get these companies to set up shop. So I think it's going to be really exciting.
That sounds great. I have owned NVIDIA for about 2.5 years. And of course, what's happened in 2.5 years of NVIDIA, and you've probably owned it much longer than that. Is it time to sell it, hold it, or buy more of it after this deal?
No. lock and load on NVIDIA. It'll change your life. Believe it or not, it's up to 20% of some of my portfolios because we just won't sell it. There's a great a video on YouTube where Jensen speaks in front of Stanford Business School. It's about 55 minutes. And you'll understand that after you watch that video that no one can compete with them. They spend over $2 billion per chip, develop these chips. The chips won't get much faster at the end of the decade because they're cramming so many transistors on these chips that by the end of the decade, they'll be approaching the atomic level. Okay. So beyond that, they have to go do quantum computing, and they're trying to take the lead there. They're having a conference next week. At the end of the conference, they'll be interviewing some of the quantum computing companies that won one of their contests. Essentially, they're trying to figure out how to program quantum computing because it's ones and zeros instead of a 1 or a 0. And we think the company that is awarded that contract that Jensen will be interviewing will explode the next day. But it's very exciting. But other people are participating in quantum computing. Google is with their Willow chip, and but they're trying to figure out the format of it, and just how to program it. They need like a subassembly language, for lack of a better word. So, but yeah, NVIDIA is unbelievable. 70% operating margins after taxes. I don't have anything with margins like that.
Well, good. I'll hold on to it. Actually, I did buy some more 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and
maybe
when I look at my home runs, they've all been monopolies. The first one was Conair in the 80s. That was hair dryers, big hair. They invented that, and no one really started to make hair dryers for about 4 years. So they had that market cornered. The next one was Tyson Foods. Tyson, was doing McNuggets for McDonald's, and eventually chicken chunks and chicken tenders. And you talk to a kid and explain in the 60s this wasn't available, and they're all very confused. And but they had a monopoly, and everybody else figured out how to chop up chicken after about 4 years. Then we had Hanson Natural, which had this company called Monster that made the energy drink. And I still remember I had the Red Bull guys in my office in Reno, and I had a friend that had an IndyCar team, and these Red Bull guys come with their aluminum suitcases, and we're drinking this stuff, and they all dress like rock stars. They're kind of different, but I thought this stuff is horrible, but I didn't realize I was supposed to be in college pouring alcohol in it. And but anyway, that took off, and the Monster was another double. Monster was North America, and the Red Bull was more Europe. And then this is our second time in NVIDIA, but we've been in it 5 years this time. So we love monopolies. NVIDIA spun off Supermicro, which is a controversial stock, but they do build the best rack systems for the servers, and we've been in Supermicro a long, long time. Still have a little basis in it, so we don't want to sell it. And we're glad we got through it while they're low. But they're going to be spinning off some more companies here soon. So NVIDIA is the gift that keeps giving.
It does. The one downer chapter in your book that I've read so far is the chapter about the national debt. And, that's a concern of many, and it's never talked about. Nobody has the political will to actually do what needs to be done to handle it. And I believe you mentioned it in your book that cutting is just not going to do enough. We're going to have to probably grow ourselves out of this national debt. Is there hope? Are we really? I think maybe in your book you mentioned 20 years was or maybe it was another article I was reading that 20 years was the point.
It's going to blow up before then. I'll say one thing to scare you, and then I'll give you the solution. So I did receive official notice from the government almost 2 years ago that I am not entitled to my Social Security. And I didn't get Social Security. I got it from another federal agency. But I don't take Social Security now. I'm on Medicare. I'm 67, but I was going to wait till I was 70, and it was going to be $5,000 a month. But they made it very clear I'm not entitled to it, and it wasn't fraud. It was all certified by another federal agency. So they're already starting to mess with people, and but I want to assure everybody that's dependent upon all this aid that you know, the U.S. has a lot of collateral. Okay, first, where everybody uses the dollar to transact international business. There's these BRIC nations. They're trying to do it direct, but they're crap. And Chinese yuan is collapsing. They got deflation. Brazil's got a 10% deficit, and their central bank's always intervening. And I could just go down the list, and the dollar is king. So that's the first thing that gives us an edge. The second thing is, if it ever came to the point where we got to have some collateral for the deficit, other than our economy, we do have a lot of hard assets. So I don't know. There's like Vandenberg Air Force Base. They launch rockets there. They've been messing with Elon, restricting what he can launch. So maybe we just turn that into oceanfront homes, lots. Do the same thing with El Toro. You do the same thing with the Presidio in San Francisco. For some reason, the Google execs land at Moffett Field. That was a place the space shuttle could land. I don't know. You do something with that. There's a lot of oil in the Rocky Mountains. I mean, we have a lot of resources. I mean, you have to frack to get to it. But it's, and we do have a real estate president, and, it's what's worst case, we could start selling stuff if we had to. But I just, because we're an aspirational country and everybody wants to come here, and because we do assimilate people. I mean, if you look at the problems in the world, Britain used to assimilate, but they don't assimilate anymore. Now they got 84 Sharia courts, and there's neighborhoods that are just totally different. France has never assimilated. That's part of their problem. The Germans used to assimilate the Turks and the Syrians, which were good engineers, but the last wave they got wasn't very good, and so they didn't get assimilated. That's part of the election issue in Germany, but we're just better than everybody else. It's people. We're an aspirational country, and people come here to grow and prosper. So I just think as long as we don't lose that, I think we'll be okay.
What you just said is what the other side of the aisle, they may think it, but they will not speak it. Whereas Trump will speak it, which is that we are better than everyone else. This is the greatest country in the world.
Yeah, and that USA Aid thing is exposing a lot of corruption. Lee Zeldin, the head of the EPA, has this memo about $2 billion going through Stacey Abrams to change your appliances and things, and there's gold missing. And I'm actually worried that we might want to do an audit in Fort Knox, make sure the gold's there. But I'm from Berkeley, California, and I've been trained in everything liberal, and I'm not trying to offend people, but there's a very thin minority pushing certain agendas, and the one I like to pick on is natural gas, because California keeps trying to ban natural gas, and in fact, that's Senate Bill 1221. They can cut off your natural gas to your neighborhood, your town, but they'll buy you new appliances, and that's the thing that Stacey Abrams was involved in. And
why would they want to eliminate the cleanest energy that's available? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, because under Biden they were just flaring it and wasting it, and having and capping wells on federal land with the methane leaking out. My attitude is, like, if you're burning it, why can't we just have it spin a turbine and generate some electricity? Right. But anyway, they were very anti-natural gas, and they had on the ballot in Berkeley. Berkeley voted 62-31 to keep their natural gas. Everybody likes having a natural gas fire pit when the fog rolls in, and you go into cooking and everything else. They've lost everything in the courts, but there's still this fringe minority. And I can tell you That's what cost Biden the election, because that was 250,000 jobs in Pennsylvania. He shut down LNG in January of 2024. He lost in the courts. He was still appealing. LNG just exploded this week with opening up a new terminal. The and it was 250,000 jobs in Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania voted, and they want to everybody wants to keep their natural gas, and but if you look at why Biden did that, he got money from Tom Steyer, was the big guy who he banned a lot of fossil fuel investing at the universities for many years. He got money from the Rockefeller family, which is a big ESG manager. I have a lot of experience with the Rockefeller family that we may not have time for, but they don't invest in fossil fuels. And Michael Bloomberg. So he just went where the money was. And then, I remember the Labor Party in Britain put 100 workers in Pennsylvania, and I think they had an election complaint, and they had to behave themselves. But, if you go to like Britain right now, the new prime minister shut down all the oil drilling. So I'm waiting for Scotland to succeed from the country again. But half the Brits can't even pay their electricity. And in Germany, their electricity is now 4 times higher than ours. And you can't run a manufacturing economy when you have all this expensive electricity. And I'm not anti-green energy. If you live in Palm Springs and other places, that stuff works great. But in Germany, it's 4% of their electricity in the winter. In the summer, it's 70%. So, it's if you're going to do green stuff, you might want to do it in the right place. And the other problem
they're turning their nuclear reactors back on, are they not?
That was what the AFD party wanted to do. That's led by Alice. She's a Goldman Sachs gal. And they were demonizing her, but she got the second most votes. But they're totally ignoring her right now. But her platform was, let's turn the nuclear plants back on so we quit leaking our manufacturing economy. Let's, curtail immigration, which Germany says they have nothing to do with because EU, not Germany. And that's actually true, by the way. Meloni from Italy, the Prime Minister of Italy, she's been losing in the EU courts trying to deport people in Albania, and so the EU is messing everything up, and Trump's planning to really let them have it. We run a surplus with Britain, about $11.9 billion surplus last year. And when he met with Keir Starmer, the prime minister, and even though they're political opposites, and Starmer tried to take Trump out before the election, Trump got along with him very good and implied there would be no tariffs. But he's going to be going after Brussels big time. And so that's the big showdown. And he met with, of course, the Irish prime minister, which Ireland has a big surplus with us, but I think it's mostly on the service side, not manufacturing, unless we're buying a lot of Irish butter, But I feel bad for Ireland. Their economy just took off, but they had to kill 600,000 dairy cows to comply with the Paris Climate Accord. And it was their economy could be better than it is.
We've got just maybe a minute and a half left. If you can, tell us what you've been doing with money and what you're going to do with money maybe the next 6 months or so. What are you seeing? Where are the green shoots?
Well, first of all, earnings are double digit all year. Okay. That's an acceleration from the previous quarter. I go in every earnings season locked and loaded. Last quarter, I had 22% sales growth, about 58% earnings growth. Margin expansion is one of the tricks of my trade. But yeah, I'm heavy in the AI that makes money. So that would be NVIDIA, Supermicro. I have a lot of the companies building the data centers. I do have retail like Costco, Walmart, SFM, which is Sprouts Farmers Market. So we have an eclectic mix.
Very good. I've got music in my ear. It means we're kind of sort of out of time. I can't thank you enough for coming on, Louis. And if I contact Carol in a few months, would you come back on maybe? Do this
Anytime.
again? Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Take care.
And that was Louis Navellier. And we're out of time. So this is Jim Taunton helping you make all of your financial decisions good ones. Good night, everybody.